It's 10:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, December 15th, and you're looking at a live shot of Space Launch Complex 40, where the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket is about to launch a Dragon mission to the International Space Station. Hello and welcome. My name is Kate Tice, and I'm a certification engineer, and I'm standing here in our SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Today is SpaceX's 13th cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station, or as you may hear us call it, the ISS. We're all excited for this particular mission because it's the first time that we're flying both a flight-proven first stage and a flight-proven Dragon. In other words, both of these vehicles have already gone to space before. This first stage flew 6 months ago on CRS-13, and the Dragon spacecraft flew on CRS-6 in April of 2015. Pretty cool stuff, and we'll talk more about this in just a moment. Also special about today, it's our return to Space Launch Complex 40. We've made lots of cool upgrades to the pad within the last year. This now gives us 3 operational launch sites. This one, 39A, both of which are in Florida, and our California launch site at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Michael Hammersley, a materials engineer for our electronics group, and I'll be bringing you status updates over the course of this mission. As Kate mentioned today, for the first time we're flying 2 flight-proven vehicles, the Falcon 9 first stage, which previously flew in June of this year on CRS-11, and the Dragon spacecraft, which previously flew in April 2015 on CRS-8. Both Falcon 9 and Dragon were designed with reflight in mind, so the vehicle hardware is built to support multiple missions with minimal refurbishment in between. And for this mission, we've refurbished the thermal protection system on Dragon's exterior, so that's why it looks brand new. But you'll notice that the Falcon 9 first stage hasn't been scrubbed down, and you can still see the soot from re-entry. The plan going forward is to not wash or repaint any of the first stage, although from time to time we may still scrub down or repaint parts or all of it if deemed beneficial. We did that in this mission on the inner stage and the legs, but for the most part, going forward, the soot from re-entry will remain. Key takeaway for Falcon and Dragon at the moment is that we are tracking no issues, and we are on track for an on-time launch just 13 minutes from now. A vehicle was raised by the transport erector late last night, about 12 hours ago, and the no-go poll was conducted by launch control just over an hour ago. Propellant loading began shortly thereafter. Currently, the first stage and the second stage are both full of RP1, the kerosene propellant, although we're going to top up the first stage at about T-minus 7 minutes just to make sure it's totally full. Helium loading began at T-minus 15 minutes, and that's what keeps the tank pressurized when we're emptying it of propellant. And Dragon is also getting ready. It began its auto sequence at T-minus 35 minutes. That's when it coordinates timing with Falcon 9 and makes sure its systems are all healthy. Next big step for Dragon is coming up at T-minus 8 minutes when it's going to move to internal power to support its mission over the 2 to 3 days that it's going to take to dock with the ISS. Currently the range is ready to support, and the weather is looking absolutely gorgeous at the moment. No major clouds to be worried about, some stratocumulus. We've been launching balloons every 30 minutes or so to be checking on the wind speeds at various altitudes, and there's nothing looking unsafe for launch on that front. We generally want those winds to be under about 30 miles an hour and make sure that there isn't too much wind shear, which is when the winds at different altitudes are moving in different directions. Overall, still very much a go for today's launch, and we've also made some upgrades to the pad. Let's take a look.
Good morning, my name is Tom Perderio. I'm a firmware engineer in the avionics department here at SpaceX. Now, as Kate and Mike both said, SpaceX is excited to be back at Space Launch Complex 40, or SLC 40 for short. SpaceX has spent the past few years not only rebuilding SLC 40, but upgrading it to reinforce its structures, improve its groundside systems, and replicate operations at LC-39A, which is our pad just a few miles to the north. It's important to remember that this pad, SLC 40, was designed before the first Falcon 1 ever flew. So this rebuild includes lessons learned from over a decade of building and operating launch pads across the country. Some of the important improvements that we've made to the pad are new dog houses. These are the heavy metal shields that protect the hold downs, which are the large clamps that hold the rocket down right until it leaves the pad. We've also installed a new flame diverter system that can withstand much longer engine firings, which allows us to do more static fire testing here instead of shipping all of our reused cores back to McGregor, Texas. Upgrades to the strongback, which is the tower next to the rocket right here, also include new lift cylinders. You can see those new lift cylinders. They're the blue objects right here. These stronger lift cylinders allow us to do one continuous lift process from horizontal all the way to vertical, whereas before we were doing a two-step process. We've also completely upgraded the lock system on the pad. This allows us to do much faster densification and loading that LOX onto the rocket once it's dense. Overall, Slick 40 has been upgraded with additional redundancies to make it safe and reliable as its LC-39A cousin to the north, which is helpful as SpaceX often sends employees and equipment between the two pads, so it's good to have as much commonality as possible between them. Together with Pad 39A and our West Coast launch site in Vandenberg, SpaceX now has 3 operational launch pads. More launch pads means more launches, which is the key to full and rapid reusability.
11 years ago, Dragon was just a design on a piece of paper. Today, it's the only vehicle flying that can deliver significant cargo both to and from the International Space Station, and it's been an exciting ride to get us to where we are. In 2010, SpaceX became the first private company to send a spacecraft to orbit and return it to Earth. 2 years later, in 2012, Dragon became the first privately developed spacecraft to visit the ISS. Since then, SpaceX has made a total of 12 trips to the ISS, and we're under contract with NASA for a total of 20 cargo resupply missions. We're currently flying cargo missions, but ultimately we will fly astronauts on crew missions, with our first crew demo mission slated for next year. Whether we're flying cargo or crew, our relationship with NASA is instrumental to mission progress and success. Today's mission marks the second time we've sent a previously flown Dragon to the ISS. The first time a Dragon was reused was on CRS-13 in April of this year. Today's spacecraft was flown for the first time on CRS-6 in April of 2015. That happens to be a mission that I remember quite well, as it was my first rocket launch as a SpaceX employee. Dragon has come a long way from just a design on a piece of paper, and we chatted with Dragon Mission Management Director Jessica Jensen to find out more about that journey as well as today's mission.
Hi, my name is Jessica Jensen. I'm the Director of Dragon Mission Management here at SpaceX. My group is the main interface with NASA for the Cargo Resupply Services contract. And what that means is responsible for 2 main areas. 1 is integrating the cargo on the vehicle, and 2 is meeting all of NASA's safety requirements. In our partnership with NASA, we have a contract for cargo resupply services to the space station. The first contract was set up for 12 missions, and we recently completed the 12th mission in September of this year. Then we have 8 more follow-on missions for this contract, and then after that, we jump onto the CRS-2 contract. And that is where we're going to be using the Crew Dragon vehicle to transport cargo to and from the space station. And the nice thing about that is the Crew Dragon vehicle has additional safety features beyond the vehicle we are currently flying, as well as a significant increase in capability of the type of research and science payloads we can fly. Dragon carries 2 types of cargo, unpressurized cargo and pressurized cargo. In the pressurized section of Dragon, we carry about 3,600 pounds of cargo. These are all items that are going to stay inside the ISS, primarily for the astronauts that are there. So these are things such as food and coffee, but all kinds of science experiments as well. For the unpressurized cargo, this is International Space Station hardware or payloads that are destined for use on the outside of the space station. Almost just as important as carrying cargo to the space station is safely bringing cargo back home. So the first thing we do when a Dragon gets home is unload all of the cargo and turn that over to NASA. After that, Dragon is shipped to the SpaceX facility in McGregor, Texas. In order to refly a Dragon capsule or a Falcon 9 first stage, several analyses, inspections, and tests have to be completed. And so it's one of the areas we do a significant amount of inspection and testing, and we also do it in coordination with NASA. NASA has been an amazing partner to SpaceX. We couldn't have done any of this without them. We look forward to carrying literally tons more cargo to the space station to keep the astronauts very busy.
As you just heard from Jessica, Dragon is packed full of supplies and science payloads for today's mission. Now, there are 2 main big external payloads in the trunk of the spacecraft. That's the lower section of the spacecraft right there. One of them is called the Total and Spectral Solar Irradiance Sensor, which measures the sun's solar energy flow to the Earth and how our atmosphere responds to it. And then also the Space Debris Sensor, which is a sensor that detects and measures the effects of tiny space junk particles that the ISS collides with during its trip around the Earth. Now, inside Dragon are dozens of other experiments, including technology demonstrators for cell science and fluid experiments, microgravity materials fabrication experiments, which attempt to manufacture polymers, crystals, and even fiber optics in space, and biology experiments, including plants, rodents, and even the behavior of astronauts themselves. There's even an experiment to grow barley in space, which would be the first step to an on-orbit brewery. Dragon serves a critical role not only in bringing these experiments up to the ISS, but also back down to the Earth for analysis once its mission is complete in just a few weeks from now.
We are at T-minus 5 minutes, and that means Falcon 9 is stepping into the final phases of terminal count. The liquid oxygen load on both stages just completed, and Falcon 9 is now performing its final checkouts to make sure that all of its primary systems will work in flight. Those checkouts include the communication systems and the avionics systems, all of which are looking totally nominal, just the way we like it. The engine chill began a few minutes ago at T-minus 7 minutes. That gets the engines cold enough to safely move propellant without causing it to accidentally boil. The next checkouts are the thrust vector control checkouts at T-minus 3 minutes, where we wiggle the engines to make sure they'll be able to properly steer Falcon 9 during ascent. Falcon 9 is going to enter startup mode at T-minus 1 minute, at which point it is in full control of the remainder of the countdown. Dragon, of course, also performing its own final checkouts to make sure all of its primary systems are going to be working in flight. Again, it's going to take a couple days to get to the space station. And just before liftoff, watch to see the strongback retract to give Falcon 9 a bit more clearance during launch. Currently, the range is a go. Everything weather-wise is still looking golden. And let's listen in to the last couple minutes of terminal count.
Stage 1 LOX load closed out. Vehicles transitioning to internal power. Stage 2 LOX load closed out.
AFTS is ready for launch.
F9 is in startup.
LDs, go for launch.
Stage 2 pressing for flight.
T-minus 30 seconds and count.
Stage 1 pressing for flight.
T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff. So your post-launch flight operations. Powers coming.
You saw it on the screen and heard the call-outs. We had successful liftoff of the Falcon 9 on time. A few seconds after that, it cleared the towers and then did a pitch kick maneuver. Currently, vehicle is supersonic. You may have just been able to make out a small sonic boom there. We're about to head to max Q, which is maximum aerodynamic pressure. That's the point at which the rocket is pushing hardest against the atmosphere.
Vehicle has passed through max Q.
Just finished that stage of flight.
MVAC engine chill has started.
MVAC engine chill gets the engines cold enough just in the way that the first stage engines perform its chill. And coming up shortly, we're going to have a few things in quick succession. The main engines are going to cut off, the two stages are going to separate, and the second engine will start. And the first stage is then going to make its way back towards landing zone 1 with a boost back burn.
We have Miko.
Stage separation.
And there we have it. Those 4 events all went in quick succession. The first stage currently boosting back. We've also gotten confirmation that the second stage trajectory is good.
Boost back burn shut down.
Okay, so on the left-hand side of your screen, you just saw the grid fins deploy. Quick recap for those of you that may have just joined us. We've had a successful launch of Falcon 9 for Dragon to the International Space Station. We have had a stage separation, and on the left-hand side is the first stage, Falcon 9, returning back to landing zone 1 in Florida.
We just had a phenomenal camera shot from our ground tracking cameras of the first stage and second stage separating, and then that first stage boost back burn. Currently, the first stage on the left-hand side of your screen is about to enter its re-entry burn phase. This is when it slows itself down before it hits the dense part of the atmosphere so that there's no aerodynamic heating of those engines which are coming in head first.
And that shot that you see on the right-hand side of your screen, that is the second stage engine glowing brightly. Personally, one of my favorite shots that we can get during a launch as it carries Dragon towards the International Space Station. So first stage on the left-hand side, second stage on the right.
On the left-hand side, that first stage, you can see those cold gas thrusters. Those are orienting the stage as it goes to the upper regions of the atmosphere. And then as the air gets thicker and thicker on its way down, we start using those grid fins, which you just saw deploy, to steer the stage back towards a safe landing at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, landing zone 1.
Yeah. So we have a total of 3 burns that the first stage will perform. You've already saw the boost back burn. We're getting ready for the re-entry burn, and that's to slow it down. And then finally the landing burn. And we're about 30 seconds away from that re-entry.
You can actually see the edge of Cape Canaveral in the screen on the left-hand side there. So as we get closer and closer to the ground, we should be able to get continuous video all the way down towards touching down on that pad.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Daytime launch, can't get any better than that. They're gorgeous shots.
Remember, on the right-hand side, the primary mission, that's a camera mounted towards the bottom of the second stage. On top of that second stage, the Dragon spacecraft. Let's get an update on how it's doing right now.
We're at T plus 5 minutes and 55 seconds, and the second stage is still moving along at full power towards the International Space Station. Quick recap of the mission thus far. First stage had an on-time launch at 10:26 Eastern. We've just moved into entry burn startup, and you can see that happening on the screen on your the left side of the screen. We had a nominal ascent. Second stage separated from the first stage, which is still moving towards landing zone 1. The Dragon nose cone was deployed, and power and trajectory are both still looking good on stage 2.
Stage 1 AFTS has saved.
So we are just seconds away from that landing burn. The first stage on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see it's getting very close to Cape Canaveral. In just a second or two, that landing burn, the center engine will light up and take it softly down to the ground.
Yeah, so we should be seeing that in just a couple of seconds. We're just past T plus 7 on the right-hand side, second stage, as it's carrying Dragon spacecraft towards the International Space Station, our primary mission. But on the left-hand side, let's tune in and watch this landing burn.
Landing burn has just started, as you can see. Watch for those landing leg deploy. Just a second or two.
You just saw the first stage land on landing zone 1. That marks the second successful visit to and from space for this particular booster. MVAC-D, the Merlin vacuum engine that you're currently seeing on your screen, has slowly begun to power down as expected. The second engine cutoff is coming up in about 20 seconds.
Second stage AFTS has saved.
At that point, the second stage and Dragon will be coasting towards its rendezvous with the International Space Station. We'll confirm we've entered the correct orbit, and then Dragon will deploy from the second stage.
Yes, he could.
GNC confirmed good orbit insertion.
So we had a successful landing of that first stage of the Falcon 9. That's the second time for that particular booster. Right now we had a second engine cutoff of the second stage, and we're just waiting for the Dragon deploy, where the Dragon separates from the second stage of the rocket.
Right, so there you can see on your screen, we're waiting for that visual confirmation of Dragon deployment. After Dragon deploys, we will be waiting for the solar arrays to spread out, and then it'll be making its way to the International Space Station.
Acquisition of signal on your screen.
So watching your screen right now, this is a camera pointing at the very bottom of the Dragon as it's docked right now to the second stage of the Falcon 9. And there it is. That is a successful deployment of the Dragon spacecraft. You can see into the trunk, those external payloads in the very back of the trunk right now.
Right, so like we said before, that is the unpressurized section of Dragon. The pressurized, you can't see from this particular view, but all of that will be making its way to the International Space Station over the next 3 days or so. We're expecting it to arrive on Sunday.
You may have also seen the two pods on the side of the trunk. Those are the solar panels. Currently, they're folded up accordion style against the sides of the trunk. In just about a minute or so now, that those covers are going to pop off, and then the solar panels are going to extend, which gives the Dragon the power it needs to get to the International Space Station.
Yeah, so there on your screen, that's a shot from the second stage, and that is Dragon moving away in its mission. And wow,
Now, Dragon doesn't just go directly to the International Space Station. It actually takes a series of burns to get there. And this happens over a period of about 36 to 72 hours after the deployment. These are both height adjust and co-elliptic burns, as you can see in this animation. The Dragon slowly moves itself closer and closer to the ISS until it's grabbed by the arm and can be berthed.
Yeah, so berthing is what we refer to as when the Canada arm reaches out, as you can see right there, grabs Dragon and then brings it in and mates it to the International Space Station. Docking, however, is whenever the Dragon itself will be docking itself to the International Space Station without the help of the Canada arm to bring it in.
Right now on your screen, or you could just see the second stage engine bell as it just coasts up there in space. Like I said, we just had a successful separation of the Dragon. We are just waiting for that solar panel to deploy. And then Dragon can make its way to the ISS over the next few days.
Yeah, so quick recap, just in case if you're just joining us, we had a successful launch of Falcon 9 as well as a successful landing. This is the second time that this particular rocket has launched and landed. We also have Dragon making its way to the International Space Station as it's successfully separated from the second stage. And this is also the second time that this Dragon spacecraft is being used as well.
You can see our mission control in Hawthorne, California right now. Everyone's very excited to be launching both a reused Falcon and reused Dragon. You can see there's usually a crowd that comes out for launch days, even though it's early in the morning. It's always good to see the SpaceX crowd coming out to watch a launch.
So the view on your right is a shot of the second engine. Oh, and there's the visual confirmation of the Dragon solar arrays deploying.
So those solar arrays are normally packed up against the side of the trunk. You can see them accordioning, folding out. Dragon has batteries on board that allow it to collect energy, and those solar arrays just make sure that it's topped up for the next few days as it gets closer and closer to the ISS.
Expected loss of signal, Bermuda.
So as you can see there, visual confirmation of the Dragon solar arrays deploying. At this point in time, that's all we're going to follow for today's webcast. However, that's not the end of the mission. Dragon still has a couple days to go before it reaches the International Space Station. But as of right now, it's been a wonderful start to our Friday morning. We had a successful launch, a successful landing, and a successful deployment for Dragon towards the International Space Station.
Though Dragon's mission is not yet complete, this is going to bring our webcast coverage to a close. Right now, we'd like to thank our customer, NASA, for helping us out in yet another commercial resupply services mission. We'd like to thank the Air Force for supporting, and the FAA, of course, and you, the viewer, for tuning in. Thank you.
And if you'd like to come join us to work on missions like launching Dragon to the International Space Station, check us out at spacex.com/careers. and look for future updates from us on our social media accounts.